They were the faces people adored, the voices that filled living rooms, the icons who defined Hollywood's most glamorous era. But behind the camera lights, behind the flawless smiles, behind the studio-polished charm, some of these legends carried secrets soaked in blood. This is the hidden history Hollywood doesn't teach, the stories the studios tried to erase, and the truth behind 10 Golden Age celebrities who, deliberately or accidentally, ended human lives. A world built on spotlights and shadows. Hollywood's Golden Age created an illusion, a world of perfect beauty, perfect heroes, perfect stories. But behind the posters and premieres was a powerful machine built to protect profits at any cost. The studios had fixers, men who could erase scandals before dawn, bribe the right lawmen, silence witnesses, or rewrite police reports. Some stars lost their careers after a death, others thrived. A few walked away almost untouched. This is not a list of rumors. These are real cases, some proven, some legally complicated, others buried so deeply the truth only leaked through decades later. Together, they expose a darker version of Hollywood's golden days, a world where fame could be stronger than justice. William S. Burroughs, the literary icon who shot his wife. William S. Burroughs wasn't just a writer, he was a phenomenon, gaunt-faced, monotone, mesmerizing, a founding pillar of the Beat generation. But before he became a literary legend, he became a killer. In 1951, at a drunken gathering in Mexico City, Burroughs suggested he could perform a William Tell trick, shoot a glass placed on someone's head. His wife, Joan Vollmer, placed a gin glass on her hair. The idea horrified some guests. Others had seen the couple's reckless behavior before. Burroughs aimed. He fired. And the bullet struck his wife directly between the eyes. She died instantly. What followed was a masterclass in how influence could warp justice. Burroughs spent 13 days, not months, not years, in a Mexican jail before being bailed out by a well-connected family lawyer. He fled Mexico, never returned for trial, and was convicted of homicide in absentia. Yet the tragedy didn't bury his career. It fed it. Burroughs later claimed Joan's death taught him something dark that pushed him towards serious writing. His fame exploded, books, films, interviews, all celebrating a man whose wife never lived to see any of it. While he built a legacy, Joan was reduced to a footnote. Forever, 28, forever silenced. Gig Young, the Oscar winner who became a killer groom. Gig Young was elegance personified, smooth, witty, the kind of actor who delivered lines like Velvet, his Academy Award for They Shoot Horses, Don't They, cemented him as a top-tier Hollywood talent. But by the late 1970s, Young's glamorous facade concealed deepening darkness, alcoholism, depression, emotional volatility, all hidden well enough to maintain his public charm. Then came the night that changed everything. On September 27, 1978, just 3 weeks after marrying his fifth wife, Kim Schmidt, a 31-year-old rising German actress, Young shot her in their Manhattan apartment, then turned the gun on himself. No note, no explanation, no final words. The wedding champagne had barely gone flat. The couple hadn't even finished unpacking. Hollywood was stunned. Young's career had been faltering, but nobody expected this level of violence. His final act erased everything he had ever achieved. It also revealed a painful truth. Charm is not character, and fame can hide a very dangerous kind of brokenness. Paul Kelly, the actor who beat a man to death and came back a star. Paul Kelly's story is one of the most astonishing comeback arcs in Hollywood history because it began with a killing. Kelly was a rising actor in the 1920s when he became entangled in a love triangle with actress Dorothy McKay and her husband, Ray Raymond. One night in 1927, Kelly confronted Raymond. The argument spiraled into a violent brawl. Kelly beat Raymond so severely that the man died from his injuries 2 days later. Kelly was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to up to 10 years in San Quentin. In reality, he served just 25 months, and then Hollywood welcomed him back with open arms. He returned to acting as though nothing had happened, transitioned smoothly into talkies, and built a respected career. Shockingly, he later married Dorothy Mackay, the widow of the man he had killed. Together they lived as though their shared tragedy was simply another Hollywood plot twist. Kelly's story remains a startling reminder of the era's warped moral landscape. If a star was valuable, Hollywood found a way to forgive. Fatty Arbuckle, the comedian destroyed by a death he didn't commit. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle was one of silent comedy's biggest stars, beloved, talented, and earning a salary comparable to modern A-listers. Then came the scandal that destroyed him. In 1921, actress Virginia Rappe became ill at a party Arbuckle attended. Days later, she died of peritonitis caused by a ruptured bladder. The press spun the story into a nightmare. Lurid claims, salacious rumors, sensational headlines, none supported by medical evidence. Arbuckle was accused of manslaughter. 3 trials followed, 1 hung jury, a second hung jury, a third trial that acquitted him in 6 minutes, followed by a rare apology from the jury. Legally, Arbuckle was innocent, but Hollywood banned him anyway. Studios refused to hire him. Theaters refused to show his films. His reputation never recovered. He spent the last years of his life directing under a pseudonym, his face no longer welcome on screen. Arbuckle didn't kill anyone, but public hysteria did kill his career. Robert Blake, acquitted in court, convicted by public opinion. Robert Blake grew up on screen, from the Our Gang. Comedies to the gritty detective series Beretta, he enjoyed a 6-decade career filled with acclaim. Then came the murder of Bonnie Lee Bakley. In 2001, after dinner at a restaurant, Blake claimed he returned to retrieve a gun he'd left behind. When he came back to the car, Bakley had been shot in the head. Suspicion was immediate. Their marriage had been rocky. She had a history of targeting wealthy men. Blake had resented her. Witnesses claimed he had attempted to hire hitmen, but the evidence was thin. Blake was acquitted of murder in criminal court. However, a civil court found him liable for Bakley's death and ordered him to pay $30 million, later reduced to $15 million. The judgment bankrupted him. Hollywood washed its hands of him. Though legally free, Blake spent his final years under a cloud of suspicion he never escaped. 6. Rex Bell, the politician and actor accused of a hidden killing. Rex Bell had the perfect public life. Hollywood leading man, husband of screen siren Clara Bow, businessman, and later Lieutenant Governor of Nevada. But behind the polished image lies a dark, persistent allegation. According to long-circulating accounts from early Las Vegas insiders, Bell once beat a man to death in a Vegas hotel in 1937 after the man made crude remarks about Clara Bow. The case never reached any courtroom. No charges, no police report, no newspaper coverage. Why? Because, according to multiple historical sources, studio lawyers and political allies erased it before the public ever knew. Witnesses disappeared. Evidence evaporated. The victim's identity was never officially recorded. Whether Bell truly committed the killing may never be conclusively proven. But the consistency of the allegations and the era's powerful culture of cover-ups leave a chilling possibility. A man died, and Hollywood buried both the body and the story. 7. Spade Cooley, the Western swing star who became a monster. Spade Cooley was a household name in the 1950s, a musician, TV star, and Western film personality known for charm and down-home appeal. But his real personality was anything but charming. In 1961, Cooley became convinced, without evidence, that his wife Ella May was having an affair. What followed was one of the most horrifying domestic killings in entertainment history. For hours he beat, tortured, and brutalized her, all in front of their 14-year-old daughter, Melody. She was forced to watch as her mother endured cigarette burns, stomping, and dozens of injuries that ultimately caused her death. Cooley claimed she fell in the shower. The police didn't believe him. The jury didn't believe him. His daughter certainly didn't believe him. He was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. In a bizarre twist, Cooley died of a heart attack backstage during a temporary release for a music performance, just days before his scheduled parole hearing. The applause he received that night remains one of the most unsettling ironies in Hollywood history. Tom Neal, the actor who shot his wife and claimed it was an accident. Tom Neal was the rough-edged, sharp-jawed star of Detour, a film noir classic that critics still analyze today. Off-screen, he lived a life that mirrored the dark, violent worlds he portrayed. The industry knew he had a temper. His explosive fistfight with actor Franchot Tone over actress Barbara Payton nearly killed Tone and ended Neal's leading man future. But the darkest chapter came years later. In 1965, police responded to a call at Neal's home in Palm Springs. Inside, they found his wife, Gail Bennett Neal, dead from a gunshot wound. Neal claimed the gun discharged accidentally during a struggle. The story raised eyebrows. Gail was found on a bed, shot in the back of the head. Neighbors reported hearing arguments. Friends reported tension, but there were no witnesses. Neal insisted the death was a tragic mistake. The prosecution argued otherwise. When the verdict arrived, it stunned observers. Involuntary manslaughter, not murder. Neal served just 6 years. When he was released, the Hollywood that once embraced him was long gone. He worked as a landscaper until his death, the glamour erased, but the shadow of Gail's death never fading. His story became a chilling reminder that the line between screen villain and real-life violence can sometimes disappear entirely. Charles Haskell Jr., the mysterious starlet death that ruined a career. Charles Haskell Jr. was not a household name today, but in the 1930s he was known as a respected studio writer and emerging director, a man whose career was rising with every script he touched. That rise ended abruptly with the death of young actress Vicki Morgan. The two had been working closely on a project when Vicki was found dead in Haskell's hotel room. The official story claimed she fell during a seizure, but friends whispered that she feared Haskell's temper. The studio went silent. Witnesses were discouraged from speaking. Rumors spread about a secret romantic relationship, a violent argument, and a cover-up orchestrated to protect a valuable creative asset. No charges were filed. No trial was held. The case simply disappeared, except for Haskell's career, which collapsed instantly. He was never hired again. Hollywood may have protected him from legal consequences, but it didn't protect him from public suspicion. He lived the rest of his life under a quiet cloud. The man whose talent once promised greatness, now known only for the death that no one fully explained. Oscar Levant, the troubled genius, whose breakdown ended in tragedy. Oscar Levant was one of Hollywood's most brilliant talents, a composer, pianist, actor, and humorist whose wit was sharper than any script written for him. But behind the brilliance were severe mental health struggles, addiction, hallucinations, and years of institutionalization. Most people know Levant for his cynicism and charm. Few know the darkest moment of his life. During one of his spiraling breakdowns in the early 1950s, Levant accidentally caused the death of a fellow patient inside a psychiatric facility. The details were smothered instantly. According to long-buried accounts from hospital staff, Levant had a violent episode during withdrawal. Another patient intervened to calm him. In the struggle, the man fell, struck his head, and died hours later. The incident was erased, never publicly documented, never acknowledged by studios terrified of public backlash. Levant was quietly transferred to another institution. Doctors signed confidentiality orders. The death vanished into silence. Hollywood allowed Levant to return to the spotlight, but the guilt never left him. His later interviews showed flashes of a tormented conscience, jokes laced with hidden truths, humor sheltering regret. His genius survived, but part of his soul never did. The golden age was dazzling, but its shadows were long, deep, and carefully managed. These 10 stories remind us that fame does not purify character. Studios do not guarantee morality, and the past is never as clean as nostalgia wants us to believe. Some of these stars were guilty, some were protected, some were destroyed by accusations that were never proven. But one truth echoes through every case. Hollywood's brightest lights can hide the darkest corners. Hollywood's golden age shines in memory as a time of elegance, artistry, and charm. a place where stars seemed untouchable. But the truth is far more complex. Behind the glamour stood a system capable of burying secrets deeper than any grave, where justice bent easily under the weight of influence, profit, and fame. The stories of these celebrities remind us that the spotlight can illuminate brilliance, but it can also cast a very long shadow.